Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to NFC South Takeover. How's it going tonight, Sean?
Oh, always good, my guy. Always good when I get to hang out with you. How you
Oh,
been,
I
man?
love it. I love it. The back and forth, man. I love it.
Yep.
Nobody I like talking to later at night, you know? So,
Yes, sir.
yeah, it's what we've just concluded week 8, correct? Correct me if I'm
hmm
wrong. And we are now tethering to the half point of the season, and it's now kind of projecting to see at where we're going to see certain teams end up, if there's going to be any upsets, or
Yeah.
what's the draft order going to look like, who's going to get the first overall pick, who's going to go for either Caleb Williams, right? Or Marvin Harrison Jr. So
Yeah.
let's dive into it. And I guess it's only proper to start with you, considering that the Carolina Panthers won their first game.
Let's go.
Let's talk about it.
Carolina got it done. Look, you and I talked about it a couple weeks ago when we talked. Carolina wasn't that far off, man. They almost beat Minnesota. They've been in a lot of these games. We went up 14-0 against Miami before Miami blew the doors off us. But we've still looked decent at times. And look, Bryce Young is the truth. If we get him some help, if we get that O-line to be stable and we can get a consistent running game from Hubbard, we'll be looking good. We're going to talk about this a little bit later, but the trade deadline being right around the corner, I am a little nervous because I've heard Brian Burns' name being mentioned as a potential somebody to get out of here, and I don't want to lose him right when I feel like we might be turning a corner and starting to do a little bit better. So, I mean, we'll see what happens with this during for the trade deadline and everything like that. But it feels good. It feels good to get a W.
Don't get me wrong. I'm obviously a Falcons fan, but I like it when our division wins games in general, right? Even if my team is losing the week, but it's good to see. And you know what? Kind of going back to what you were saying though about Brian Burns potentially going, the Carolina Panthers ended up giving their first overall pick, right? So for them right now in this draft, they don't have a first round pick. Correct me if I'm wrong. And that was given to the Chicago Bears. So do you think potentially with Brian Burns, considering his value and his, I guess, just overall, just value in general, do you think that you could get a first-round pick for Brian Burns?
You'd have to have a team that's really desperate, in my opinion. The value of these players has been fluctuating. We just saw, Leonard for the Giants. Didn't he get traded for like a third or something like that?
I believe so. Where did he go? He went to, oh my god.
He went to
oh my god, I was just reading this too.
Not Philly, right?
Not Philly. No, it wasn't Philly. Wasn't the Niners.
Where did he go?
I can't remember. And Leonard Fournette also got signed. I can't remember where he got signed to.
Fournette went to Buffalo.
That's right.
Johnny, I see you in the comments. Where did Lawrence go?
Yeah, I know he went somewhere. I was reading it. Okay, well, whatever. We'll come back to it. But all these, there's a potential. A lot of defensive players that are on the line right now that could end up going before I guess the end of tomorrow, right? So there's a lot of teams in the running. Even speaking with my Falcons, considering we just lost. Where? Seattle? Yeah, that's right. Seattle. Yep. And that's a smart play because Seattle right now is, where are they in their division? They're second or whatever. They're in a playoff spot currently at the moment, right? Yep. I think they're 5-2. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yep. And Geno Smith is definitely proven that he wants to be the main guy. And it's funny because not to go off on a tangent with the NFC in general, but there's a lot of questions if Geno should have got signed the contract that he was given last year, right? I believe it was a 3-year. I know my buddy's a pretty diehard Seattle Seahawks fan. He thought it was a little bit of an overpay. I think as did most people that were Seattle Seahawks fans. So seeing him now go 5-2 in his second season and put up a fight against a lot of these teams, I'm not saying they're the favorite, but hey, man, anything could happen. Especially considering we just saw Denver blow out KC this week, right? And, realistically, that's the one thing that I do like about the NFL. I like it and I hate it. I guess it would be a love-hate relationship, is that, you get to the playoffs, it's a one-game show, man. If you don't show up for the one game, sorry, it doesn't matter. You don't get chances like baseball and hockey where it's a multi-game series. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so important to get that good seed, to get home field advantage, to get whatever advantage you get. And even after all of that, at the end of the day, just like Minnesota, you have a great season, you come into the playoffs, and the Giants catch you on the right day, and the Giants shock them and beat them. You know what I mean? But we had all said Minnesota last year they were potentially frauds anyway, because a lot of those one-score games they were getting to win them. But I think you're absolutely right. I love the parity that we have. I love that each week you genuinely don't really know who's going to get it done. And then all of a sudden you have the Arizona game where they beat Dallas. You have this game. You have the Patriots game where they beat Buffalo, and it's kind of like, oh, man, how did I didn't see this coming? You have Washington, who obviously has been struggling against lesser talent, who has went toe-to-toe twice with the NFC champs. In the Philadelphia Eagles. So week to week, you really don't know, but it's about when you start playing. That's why I'm so excited about the Panthers, because if the Panthers start to put it together, if we're able to string some wins together, which is very possible with our schedule, we could be potentially talking about, us making some moves and whatnot.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So
definitely.
Here.
Oh, perfect, Mr. Cornette. It's been a hot minute.
It's been more than a hot minute. Kyle, how's everybody doing tonight?
Not bad, man. It's pretty good Monday night. Can't complain. Made dinner for the fam, talking football, catching up with the friends,
There you go. Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, guys.
Well, thanks for being on, man. So I don't know if you've been kind of listening or paying attention. We're just kind of going back and forth talking draft capital right now at this point, considering that the trade deadline's coming up. And you know what? Actually, I kind of want to revert a question, if you don't mind, Sean, back to Ben.
Mm-hmm.
And, Ben, there's a lot of these teams that are in the running, obviously. You look at where the Carolina Panthers are currently in the draft, and they've given up their first-round pick to the Chicago Bears, which, looking at it right now, would have been very, very high value, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's been a lot of, discussion that Brian Burns potentially could get traded off of the Carolina Panthers. Now, do you think a first would be too much for Brian Burns?
I would think so, and the only reason why I would say that, guys, is because he's had injury problems.
Okay.
He can't stay healthy. But when he's healthy, he is a pretty valuable player defensively, one of the better defensive players in the league. I would say definitely second round. You can get a second rounder for him.
Wow.
Teams, there are desperate teams, that could say, you know what? Okay, that piece right there is what we're missing. What do we do? Look at Seattle. They got Leonard Williams today.
Yeah, we led right into that too. Exactly. Yeah.
Second round pick, I think, for the Giants.
Yeah.
So, that's a big deal. Guys, to be honest with you, first rounders to get something for first round pick is so rare these days.
Yep.
It's just so rare because
with that though, okay, because you guys have both been watching the tracker, right? What players that are currently on, I guess, we'll call it the waiver wire, right? Are worth a first round pick right now. What player would you consider, maybe even going back to you, Sean, too, being also a Washington fan, do you think Chase Young is worth a first round?
No, you can't. The best ability is availability. And unfortunately, in the last 2 years, we really haven't seen him on the field. Now, mind you, obviously he had a pretty nasty injury. But at the same time, he was cleared to play at least 4 weeks before he actually got on the field last year. And you can definitely tell towards the end of last year and the start of this year, he wasn't there with it up there. He seemed a little timid in certain situations. Now it started to catch on, and he started to look really good. But he's certainly not that guy that everybody said that that they fear and all the announcers talk about. He's not that same guy. I watched the guy against you in Atlanta where Chase Young comes around the corner, beats your tackle off the ball completely, and has a free shot at Desmond Ridder. And let's be honest, Desmond Ridder can run, but he's no Michael Vick. No. Desmond Ridder went right around Chase Young. Chase Young barely even touched him after having a free shot against him. And then we get Casey Toohill coming in here getting 2 sacks chasing Ritter down like he's daggone Bruce Smith.
Yeah.
So, I mean, honestly, right now, if we're paying him for the fact that he was a first-round pick, okay. If the team wants to do that, that's fine. But right now, I mean, draft picks, first-round picks are like cars. As soon as you drive them off the lot, they start to depreciate unless they're getting better. And a lot of these guys just, and like Ben said, Leonard Williams went for a 2. He went for a second-round pick. Montez potentially second, maybe third is what people have been talking about. So,
I hope so, man. I hope we land him.
He's not there. Third, I think we'd be lucky to get a third for Chase.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair, honestly. Yeah, kind of like leading away to even what's going on with the Falcons. I don't know if you guys have caught up in the news, but Grady Jarrett's out for the season with an ACL tear. Yeah. It's an ACL or is it Achilles?
I think
one of them. Yeah, either way, he's out for the season. Huge blow because him being a 1-2 pair with Calais Campbell has been amazing, right? Even the fact that I guess most of the NFL is calling the Falcons a top 10 defense is phenomenal, right? Something I haven't heard of, like being a fan for the last like 8 or 9 years. Like that hasn't been a thing. So, it does hurt. I really do hope, that the Falcons do go and pick up Montez Sweat because I think that'll help. I think that would improve it a lot. Doesn't really solve the situation because as anybody who even watches any Falcons game notices, like the issue is quarterback at this point. And I know that Taylor Heinicke started his first game today against the Houston Oilers, but
basically,
But regardless, like there's two things I want to take away from that game. That the Falcons lost it. Desmond Ridder definitely, I think people are now starting to give up on him for sure. They were saying that they took him out of the game because of concussion protocol and it had nothing to do with performance. But I honestly think that's just a scapegoat in my opinion. Like seeing how he played in the first half, that's performance. It's nothing but performance. So, but on the flip side of it, not to I guess shine a light in the dark tunnel, but like Will Levis balled out. Like he looked great, man. Like his arm, my God, he can sling it. And it's accurate too. Like the balls he was throwing, like don't get me wrong, makes it a little bit questionable with some of the cornerbacks that we had, but it was great. Heinicke almost came back. It was too long, too gone, unfortunately, right? So the Falcons then go 500. But I don't know. It's like me and Sean, I know we talked about it before. It's kind of what I was shaping up for the season to be. This is kind of what I've seen. Now, the only saving grace that might put us above 500 next week is the fact that Kirk Cousins is gone. And don't get me wrong, having Grady Jarrett out is a blow, but I'm going to chalk it up that Kirk Cousins being out is a little bit more of a bigger blow in my opinion. But I guess, we'll have to wait and see. But I'm definitely watching this tracker. I'm watching to see if Montez Sweat is going to be going to the Falcons. That'd be phenomenal. I'm also waiting to see, and I saw Johnny in the comments saying that potentially Jameis Winston might be going to the Vikings.
Yeah, they're pushing for it. They're working on it right now. The Saints and I think it just comes down to what the Vikings will give up for Jameis. Now it's a little bit tricky here, and I'm going to tell you why. Derek Carr is what I considered fool's gold. Okay. Yeah,
I totally agree. Totally agree.
Why would you trade Jameis though? Say that Carr has another bad game.
Yeah.
In the Saints, let's see, in this division we got, it's anybody can really win. Except Carolina, but Atlanta.
Yep.
Ones can win this division.
Yep.
Why would you want to trade Jameis now? Because listen, what if Carr gets injured? God forbid he gets hurt or he struggles.
Yeah.
Backup. And I don't know, man. Would the Saints really do that though? I mean, I get it. I know Jameis wants to play and everything. I get that. But that just seems like a reach, man. And I know Minnesota wants to get a quarterback there because they still feel like they can try and get a wild card spot. But we'll see what happens. I don't know. I mean, unless they get they're not going to get a first or second rounder.
No.
Maybe
totally true though. Actually, you're definitely right. Actually, you kind of hit the like the nail on the head there. Looking at even like I guess the race, like, and no offense, Sean, the Panthers are completely out of it, and like they're not coming back. It'd be like some Cinderella story like times 10 if they were to come back. So realistically, it's either. Sorry.
Yeah, I was saying it's happened before, or at least.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, I'll eat my words gladly if it happens. But like between the Saints, Falcons, and Bucks, like it's literally going to be down probably to the last game. Really, like some teams will have bad weeks, some teams will have good weeks, right? And even just looking at the quarterback situation in general, the Falcons having Ritter and Heinicke, the Saints having Carr and Winston, and the Bucks having Baker and I guess Trask would be your two, right? I'm assuming, but literally you take away Carr and Winston, Saints ain't winning that division. It's not going to happen. I'm not sure who their third string quarterback is, but regardless of who it is, they ain't winning that division. It's not going to happen.
Taysom Hill gets that, yeah.
Oh yeah,
and that was my first thought, and I thought, and we talk about them being fool's gold. Taysom is fool's gold because he had an amazing day yesterday, having for like with that one pass for like over 40 yards, having like 60 yards on the ground, some receiving yards. Like he was the gadget guy. But I have him on my fantasy team. He don't do that every week. He's did that maybe twice this year, and it's few and far between. So I hope they're not putting any eggs in that basket, because at least Jameis, I believe, I look at Jim a little different, but I'm not scarred being a Tampa Bay fan and having him take the joy away from. Hey, we had Kirk Cousins. We know it. Kurt will get you 4,000 yards, and he'll also make sure he throws 2 interceptions late in the game to take you out the game.
Well, we always had this saying in Tampa about Jameis. He was like the only quarterback in NFL history that gave both teams a chance to win every week.
No.
He's a giving guy. He's a giving guy.
Yeah. But, I mean, I just don't understand it from the Saints standpoint. You're still in this division. You could still win it. Why would you give up your backup quarterback who's been like Sean? He's been in the NFL for like 7 years now. James, or 8 years. This is his 8th season.
Well,
he's been a starter in the league for 5 years. So
let's throw it out. Let's just throw it out there, actually, because you know what? You bring up a great point with that. Maybe it's a scenario where the Saints upper management, maybe they don't necessarily agree with Carr. You know what I mean? Maybe they're like, you know what? Like, we signed this guy. This might have been a bad signing, which, like, again, I'm not a fan of Carr. I've never really been a fan of him. I'm not going to disrespect him, though, and say he's not a good quarterback. I just wouldn't put him in the elite category. I never would have put him there. But knowing how many quarterbacks are coming up in this class that potentially could match of what he does or better, right? Considering this is probably one of the better quarterback pools we've had in the last 5 years, I would say, or like depending on how they perform, obviously, right? But maybe they think they can get a little bit of value for Winston. Maybe they can trade a bunch of picks and then go have somebody that'll challenge Derek Carr for that position, like similar to what's kind of going on in Tennessee with Ryan Tannehill and Will Levis and Malik Willis. You know what I mean? Maybe they just want to create competition so they light a fire under his butt.
And at the end of the day, I mean, the Saints have the leverage. Minnesota is the one who's in desperate need of a quarterback. They're not trying to run out Jaren Hall every week and have him be the guy. I don't think, like you said, they're still somehow in the NFC North race with, the Vikings at 3-4, but they just lost their QB, and then the rest of the two at 2-5 or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, the Saints have the leverage, but again, how much are you going to get for Jameis? And, do you want to make that move going forward? Because you talked about, there's a lot of these teams this year that need a quarterback. Geno got himself a job because the Seattle got rid of Russell Wilson. Nobody thought Geno was going to be it, but the team around him, they supported him, they gave him weapons, and he's able to do it. Look at what Tyrod was doing before he got hurt with the Giants. They almost beat the Bills. They beat Washington. You know what I mean? I mean, it's not pretty, but it's serviceable. Heinicke's the same thing. So backup quarterbacks, man, I mean, there's a premium on these guys. Yep. You got to make sure you have a good one. Those winning teams are able to have a really good quarterback, and then somebody that can come in after. So Minnesota needs it, but I agree. I don't think the Saints should do that unless they have somebody else, like you're saying, in mind. Like maybe
Well,
they're
I was going to say real quick, maybe one of the other reasons why Minnesota's doing this is, let's remember, guys, Kirk Cousins is a free agent after this year.
Yes,
yeah,
that's true.
So, maybe they're looking to move on from that era and bring in, a veteran that's been there and maybe give Jameis a test drive, see how he could, do. And potentially he could be that guy for Minnesota, because they also have to think about Justin Jefferson. You're going to have to sign him.
That's true.
Jordan Addison too, just him being on that team too, that pairing, right?
Yeah. I mean, so he get a quarterback, for those weapons. So there's a lot that goes into this, but I'm just looking at it from both sides. Like Minnesota still thinks they can compete. New Orleans, I just don't see it. I mean, who knows? Unless they get something spectacular in this scenario, I think Jameis stays. I don't think they should. I don't think the Saints should do it, just because, again, with Carr, he's so up and down. He played a good game against the Colts, but let's remember too, who's on the other side? Gardner.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's the Colts, and they've been just prone to everything. Like, what was that game? That game had I think 7 or 8 like multiple week injuries or whatever. Where because Darren Waller. No, that's not the Colts. I'm thinking of the Giants. Never mind. Yeah, never mind. Yeah, I'm thinking about the Giants game of when the Giants and the Jets had 8 or 9 injuries. It's insane.
I watched that game yesterday because I'm friends with some Giants and some Jets fans.
Oh,
so
yeah?
Okay, the Bucs weren't playing Sunday, so I was like, well, I'll watch this game, knowing that I was going to be in for a snooze fest. And
yeah,
oh God, this was a horrible game to watch.
I
was going back and forth between that and the red zone. I was like, but real quick, I know this is the South we're talking about.
Yeah.
But don't ever watch that game. If you don't ever watch that game.
It was that bad, eh?
Yeah.
Man.
Great defenses, but 2 horrible offenses. So.
Oh yeah, that's a tale. That's a tale for another time. But Ben, I guess with that, your Bucs did play on Thursday, back-to-back losses, right? In all fairness, and let's be realistic here, I don't think anybody posed the Bucs to beat the Bills. Didn't think that was going to happen. Closer game than I thought, for sure. But what are you thinking right now? Are you at all scared being a Bucs fan for the trade deadline? Are you going to see do you think there's potentially going to be some moves? I know you guys have some big signings coming up between, correct me if I'm wrong, and Antoine Winfield Jr. and Devin White, I believe, are the 2 big ones that you guys need to sign, correct? Does that concern you?
I think we'll end up giving Antoine big money because, listen, he deserves it. Devin White doesn't. If you've seen him play all year, he's just too inconsistent. And it's been that way since the Super Bowl year. Here's what I'm afraid of. The only thing is that Jason Light tends to love to hang on to these guys because Devin White's the 5th overall pick in the 2019 draft.
Yeah.
And if he feels like if I give up on him, then he's going to go to another team that does well. But with that philosophy, I always think, well, he's not doing good here. Maybe he needs a change of scenery where maybe a system that could fit him better. That doesn't mean if somebody leaves, that doesn't necessarily mean they were going to do good, keep doing, all of a sudden do good here. Sometimes it's the system, maybe he needs a change of scenery. But, when you say in the offseason you want to be $100 million linebacker, you're already putting the pressure on yourself to be that guy. And guess what?
Yeah.
He hasn't done anything. And, Antoine Winfield's made the plays this year. The turnovers, he's just playing his ass off. And, in this game, I knew Buffalo would win. Let's be real. It's a short week. You're coming off I'm going to just say it, an embarrassing loss to the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah.
I mean, if Will Levis can put 3 or 4 touchdowns on you, why couldn't Baker Mayfield
But look, hold on. Will Levis actually made some unreal throws though. Like we're talking accurate long bombs, man. You don't see that often. Like unless you're confident as a quarterback. For him to go out his first game though, and to launch it like that, knowing that you have AJ Terrell on the one side and you have Jeff Okuda on the other side, it's still ballsy, man. Like it's not something I would do, and he did it with ease. And like honestly, like again, not trying to talk up the Tennessee Titans by any means, right? But he actually used DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah,
which I'm surprised. I mean, and I'm surprised let his coordinator, say, hey, let's show some offense here.
Yeah.
Look, and like you said, you got a decent secondary.
Yeah.
But the problem I had was, why wasn't Mayfield looking toward Mike Evans more? I mean, you got a 6 foot.
I agree.
Guy. Yeah. Use him.
I got burned on fantasy points that week, man, because of Mike Evans. I got burned because of that. He didn't use Mike Evans.
Same freaking thing this week.
How
many targets Mike Evans had in this game against the Bills? 6.
Wow.
How do you let a guy like that only have?
Who's his main target? Because like I'm seeing a similar issue also with Desmond Ridder with his targets. I will say I do like how much Kyle Pitts has been targeted. At the same time, though, I don't like how like Drake London has not been targeted. So like it's a catch-22, but like it's a weird dynamic with some of these quarterbacks because they pick their guy. Like if you ask me right now who I think Desmond Ridder's guy is, I'm going to say Jonnu Smith, which is odd. Like, I don't know why you want that as your main guy, but I think it's like one of those, the back and forth of, like, this is my guy, this is who I want to go with. But it's like, okay, like, I get it, you have the chemistry, but this guy's also been through the system. Like, this guy's the main guy. This guy's the number one, your number one pick or your first round pick of this year. Why aren't you utilizing your main weapons? And, like, kind of going back to what you were saying also, Ben, that Devin White just might be a product of not being in the right system. Like there's been a lot of talk that could be a Kyle Pitts too, right? It's like, is he, because him coming from Florida, being the unicorn, this freak athlete that has this height, has this reach, has he can run like whatever he can run, right? And the fact that he can't be covered, right? But we're not utilizing that in the last 3 years, right? So it's kind of tough because you don't want to give up on these players, and that they're an amazing player. You want them to excel. You just don't want to see them excel necessarily in another system.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of that like most fans are, because again, would it make a difference if he did that for us because he hadn't been previously? No, I don't think so. But I think Mayfield, as far as comfort level, Godwin's been he targets Godwin a lot more than he does Mike Evans.
Yeah.
Evans now, I will say I'm a little disappointed in Evans this year with the drops. He needs to,
He had that last year though, Ben. That's the thing I will say about Mike Evans is, we can sit here and talk saying that, Mike Evans is amazing. I've seen Drake London being compared to Mike Evans as well and stuff like that. But I will say from what I have seen with Mike Evans, at least in the last 2 to 3 years, he drops the ball. Like he does.
But he's always done that, Kyle. I mean,
okay.
He makes great catches, the one-handers, times. But sometimes he'll drop some of those passes, the easy ones. That's like, come on, that's why I keep hearing fans, he's an elite wide receiver. He's an elite wide receiver. I disagree. Elite wide receivers don't drop as many passes as Mike Evans.
True.
I'm sorry. Devontae Adams does not drop hardly any passes.
No.
He's just
right.
Neither does Tyreek Hill.
Nope.
So as much, but it doesn't mean that they should not target Evans more, because Evans can do what very few can do: draw the flags. If the 50-50 balls, that's his strength.
Yep.
Give him more 50-50 balls, because he will draw those penalties, because he's hard to defend, because you got smaller corners in the National Football League. So yeah, it's funny how our team is, with these two receivers, and Godwin he has great hands. He's more of a route runner, but that seems to be Mayfield's preferred receiver is more comfortable with. It seems like so. Yeah.
And there's a lot to that. I mean, absolutely, in everything you're saying, the system plays such a huge role in a lot of these young kids' careers. But not only that, but a lot of these older guys. I mean, you see some of these guys that have come in and not really done much, and then all of a sudden they get in the right system, a la Geno in Seattle, and all of a sudden he looks like a solid quarterback in there. And then look, going back to Will Levis, I mean, the blueprint for how he can have success was laid in college. Give him a solid run game, give him a above average defense, and allow him to sling the rock. What happened in this game?
Can I add one more thing to that, to his resume?
Yeah.
Mayo in the coffee.
Yeah, well, it works. Somehow it works.
He was Penn State, right?
No, Will Levis? Kentucky.
Okay. Yeah, I was watching Penn State yesterday playing. I was liking their quarterback, actually. Oh, yeah. Can't remember his name. He's
Drew Allen.
Yeah, I like him. He's something, man.
He's good. But I mean, like you said, the system, man. You have to be at the right system for it to work. And quarterbacks having their guy is a very big thing. I mean, all the quarterbacks that Washington has had, with the exception of one, seems to avoid Terry McLaurin. One thing that the reason why Heinicke was so well loved in Washington is because what's the joke we all said? F it, he's down there somewhere. Heinicke would just toss this ball up and give Terry the opportunity. The same thing, Ben, you're saying for what they should do for Mike Evans, that's what he would do. Now, that might not have been the best for us, and sometimes we're sitting here watching like this, but think sometimes more often than not, Terry would make the play. But that's my issue with the Bucs. Like, why don't you do that? Just throw it up to you. Like, Evans is that guy.
Sean, let me ask you. I know that you're repping the Panthers here, but with what? Why not McLaurin? It seems like every time I watch a Washington game, I hardly hear about him. Is it just do defenses just prepare for him more, take him out of the game, or is it just like Sam Howell? I know he's got a horrible offensive line. Let's face it, it's horrible. But I would think, man, this dude should be getting more targets than he is.
You know what?
I
want to add on to that before you answer that, though, Sean. One thing, and I see a big issue with this in the NFL, in my opinion, is I'm just seeing quarterbacks being more and more scared to throw the ball in general. You know what I mean? Like there is such a big emphasis on run game to the point where it's overly too much. Unless you're a freak athlete like Derrick Henry, and pretty much Derrick Henry might be one of the only running backs that I can really put in this category. Unless you're averaging 8 or 9 yards per carry, and then the running back on your team is only doing 2 yards, 3 yards. Why are you starting with that running back? You know what I mean? At the point, once you see that it's not working, oh man, this pass rush defenders, they're good. I'm not breaking through as my running back. Okay, stop that. And then start throwing it more, right? Yeah. And honestly, in that scenario, I know they have Brian Robinson over in Washington, right? But you got Scary Terry. Throw him the ball. Throw him the ball on first down. Give him another shot on second down. We don't always have to do a run, pass, run. You know what I mean? We that's not what we need to do.
I completely agree with you. You guys saw it firsthand when we played you guys. We don't get him the ball until the second quarter or the third quarter, and I don't understand it. The only way I can really try to explain it is in the same thing that's going on with you, Kyle, in Atlanta.
Yep.
The system is the running offense. That's why Cordero Patterson, Tyler Algier, that's why you did a top 10 pick on Bijan Robinson. They are focused on the run game. So these wide receivers, they're going to take the slack on that. That's the same thing in Washington. We keep coming out to the media saying run, 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 even though we brought EB out there. And it's crazy because most times we don't get past those first however many scripted plays. And a lot of them is, like you said, run first down, run second down. Okay, now we're third and long and we need to pass. And then, they know exactly what we're doing. They're blitzing us. And we can't do it. A lot of it is protection in Washington, but a lot of it is also the fact that I don't know. And you guys know I've been very vocal about this. People give Sam a hard time, and I don't think they give the same people that same energy. And the reason why I'm saying that is because Sam is still a rookie. He's still a rookie on a team that is struggling. I mean, we just got rid of all of the Dan Snyder stuff, and then we bring in EB. You got a new offense. This kid's still a rookie. And at the end of the day, I think it is a lot more to do with the play calling. You know, you're giving me a running play out of the shotgun, and it's taking him, you know, he might get 7 yards, but if he starts 5 yards back, that's only getting 2 yards. So now we're at 2nd and 8. Now we get an incomplete pass because we don't throw it to Terry. We try to throw it to somebody else, and all of a sudden we're dealing with 3rd and longs. And then God forbid we get a penalty or anything like that. We don't have that type of offense to get it going. So right now it's a play calling thing. EB was supposed to come in here and do short passes and all that. Yeah. If you look at most of our routes, they're long developing routes. We don't have that kind of time. So Sam is taking sacks, and he is a rookie. So he's getting nervous out there, and it's showing.
It's not the play calling shot. It's your protection. You have none. Sam Howell's just getting murdered I hate to say that word, but the guy has no time, man.
What do you do? What do you do if you don't have a line? You throw short passes. You throw those little bubble screens. You do all that. That's what EB did when he was with KC. And I know I'm not sitting here trying to say Sam Howell is Patrick Mahomes, but I am going to say when you scheme up and you sit there and you know, hey, Martindale's going to bring 6 guys. All right, great. Somebody, if we do a little quick screen, let these guys come in, dump it off to them. That's going to stop them from rushing up and bringing those corners and all that stuff in. You have to work with Sam because you're absolutely right. We don't have a line. I mean, this game, the last game we played was the least amount of sacks we've given up in a game, and that was one. Crazily enough, against the Eagles, but every game other than that this season, he's had at least 4 sacks. In the majority of those games, he's had an average of 5 sacks. He's getting killed, but that boy he's damn near tough, man.
I think Desmond Ridder this game.
No, he's tough, definitely tough. I mean, I know I will say things, I tease, but like in all seriousness, bro, I mean, boy, they gotta protect him better, man. It's just a little bit. Give him just a little time. I mean, those plays will be there, you know. But I do like what you said about, you know, the little short screen, the 2-3 yard screen passes when that blitz comes. You know, they bring the 4-5 rush. You know, so
but kind of going back to your point though, Ben. Like we also are like, you're right. We don't have the best. Like they don't have the best O line, but like even like KC's O line, man. Like KC's O line, like they're good. You know what I mean? So for Patrick Mahomes to throw those short passes, like KC has had a good O-line for a long time. Like, even
I don't know.
But that's the other.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. But that's the other side to it. We talk about these other quarterbacks that have been there for years, and in experience, you learn different checks. You learn different defenses. There's a lot of stuff Sam hasn't seen already yet, and so there's a lot of stuff where people hit him with something new. And then all of a sudden now, okay, I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about that. And then he starts throwing these terrible passes that are getting deflected. And it's just like, that was a simple one, man. You should have just made that. You know what I mean? So what were you saying, Ben?
No, I was just going to say, you know, Denver, I think, played the best game of the year yesterday.
Oh, God, man. Well, no, Taylor Swift wasn't in the crowd, though. That's the whole reason why. So
I was tinkering with picking Denver, you know, but like, nah, I played it too safe. But I remembered because this is their second game in 3 weeks against them. I'm like, so they have a little bit of footage now, you know.
Oh, man. Denver is – I can't even start with Denver. I think, and this is going to sound bad, Denver is going to be bad for a very long time. Like right now, where they're at, like besides Russell Wilson having a game, like they put pretty much all – their like star players on like the trade deadline. You know what I mean? Like you can pick up Surtain, you can pick up Judy. There's a couple other too, I can't remember, but they're like, yeah, we're willing to sell. We're willing to sell for sure, right? And it's like what is going on in Denver? I think
this might have been the plan. I think this might have been the plan all along. Sean Payton wanted to see what he had. And then once he saw it, that's when you started to see when they traded Randy Gregory away, when they traded Bradley Chubb away. You started to see, okay, I need to get my guys here. If that means I got to get rid of some of these stars to get me some more draft capital, because we know he doesn't have much of that. Let's start building that up. I mean, that's the only way I could look at it, because other than that, it's just like, are you tanking? Or are you like
what? like what are you doing?
Yeah, but see, the problem with that is you got to pay Russell Wilson.
Yeah,
his money, the new deal, that doesn't kick in until next year. So you're throwing a lot of money for it, and I got to give Pete Carroll credit. Like, he's like the best car salesman I ever met. I mean, he knew what he was doing. Line and thinker, man. He like got him, And look what Seattle's doing. They're in first place now in the division.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they are in first. I wasn't sure if they were or not. And you know what? The thing is that's really nice about Seattle is, and again, I'm not a big Seattle fan. I'm on the more of the fence of hating Seattle, but I'll give respect where respect is due. Like, they have built a system where it's a plug and play system. Literally, if they don't like Geno, they can take him out, bring in a new quarterback, and that team is still going to be absolutely solid. Like, they have weapons all around. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think they got Devin Witherspoon, right? They took Witherspoon. They have Witherspoon. They have Smith and Jigba. They still have Metcalf. I think Lockett's still on the team too. Yeah, and then their running back too. What's his name?
Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, Kenneth Walker. Like, and then their defense is not bad whatsoever either. Like, they're not a bad team. Like, Seattle definitely is going to be a problem for a lot of teams. But kind of going full circle that what you were saying about Sam Howell too. It does pose a question though, like with Sam Howell, Bryce Young, and I know I said this last week that, what do you do? Like, actually, we'll use Denver as an example, because this is a great point of it. What do you do if you're Denver, right? Do you stick with Russell Wilson, knowing that he knows, or he's been in the league for how long, he's got a ring behind him, right? Or do you go with these new quarterbacks who are, flashy? They potentially like to showcase their arm a lot and stuff like that, right? I think it's you're seeing it more so this year than other years of like the conflict of, do you go with what's flashy and new, or do you go with, the proven experience, right? But like, I think at the same time with the proven experience, kind of to add to it, there's the stubbornness too, right? So what do you do then, right?
I mean, I think it really you got to take a look at the makeup of the team. I mean, I look at with Washington, the last 2 years we've brought in a new quarterback. We brought in Fitzpatrick hoping he'd be the answer. He got hurt. We brought in Carson Wentz hoping he'd be the answer. He played very poorly. At this point, I really feel like we're in a real middle ground here. We're playing with house money with Sam. If Sam does well, he's still on his rookie contract. We can work that in and then potentially build up around him. But some of these other teams might need to win now. If I'm Denver, I mean, I got Russ. I'm thinking, okay, if I can't get out of this contract, so I need to build up around him while I have him. Now, we've seen how Russ has kind of fell off a little bit. Then give him ways to be successful. You know what I mean? You have running backs. You have certain weapons that you can use. Then, all right, if he can't pass as well, then help him run. Get him a little what he did early in his year where he did some RPO stuff and got him going. Like, I think Russell, that's an interesting situation. But as far as like your situation or my situation, for you guys, I'd be like, you might need to take a look towards the future.
You have to.
Ritter's not it.
You're going for a quarterback. Like, there's nothing else that you will do, right? Like, you have to go for sure for a quarterback. Ritter being like this inconsistent and proving that he has the most interceptions in this year. Like, it's not a situation where it's like, oh, we can wait. No, like, it's if this isn't the guy, then you draft a quarterback. Because realistically, like, all in all, and not to like steal this or anything, but the Falcons are pretty set. Like, they maybe need. Like, it'd be nice to get another guard to replace Caleb McGarry and somebody to replace Calais Campbell, because I don't think he's going to play another year. I think he'll be done. Plug in a quarterback, man. Like, waste your first round pick on a quarterback. Whatever is there, take it. That's I agree, Sean, 100%.
Yeah. Well, Ben, what do you think, man? I mean, you guys got a unique issue. I mean, I know Baker's not the long term, but what do you like? You look in draft? Is Trask the guy? What do you guys?
Well, I always looked at Baker more as a stopgap. It's one of those situations, Sean, where I think what really hurt us here was that last year, before the 2022 season, Brady actually retired.
Mm-hmm.
And what we were planning on was having Trask be the guy.
Yep.
Who's going to be the starter. Well, 45 days later, Tom Brady says, "Oh, I'm back."
I'm back.
But what it did, though, guys, is it kind of stalled our, future a little bit.
Yeah.
Trying to go after one more season with Brady, see if we can try and do it again. And Brady's head was never in it. We had so many injuries on the offensive line. It just, to me, that's why I don't think Trask is going to be the guy, because if it's not happening now, then it's really never going to. So
exactly.
Mayfield, and see what's really worse about it, guys, and it's just not my situation, but maybe Kyle's situation. This division, you may only get 8 or 9 wins to win it. Yeah. And if you win that division, that means you're not gonna be in the top 10 draft. And 8 and 9 it's probably gonna get you between 15 and 22, 23.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All those good quarterbacks they're gonna be 1 through 8 or 9. So you're not gonna get those good you're not gonna get the Drake Mays, the Caleb Williams, the Michael Penix Jr., those guys. So, and I see what you're saying, Kyle. It's kind of hard,
right?
Going for a quarterback in the mid rounds. Do you really want to take a chance there? I mean, that's because I look at your situation, and I'm not trying to deflect from ours. I'm just going to say,
no, that's totally cool. That's what we do here.
So, I think you guys really went hard for Lamar Jackson, and it didn't. Or I'm sorry, Deshaun Watson, and it didn't work out, which I'm glad it didn't, because he's not your future either. But I'm just saying.
No, I'm happy about that. That would have ended very bad.
Right.
Too many jokes.
Yeah.
No happy endings there.
I need a massage. No, I think it kind of slowed your growth too, because you kind of like, okay, we're gonna have to go with Ritter here until, because I think you really put your hopes on trying to get that free agent. Even Lamar Jackson, I think you guys were, correct me if I'm wrong, but weren't you guys making a
Lamar Jackson? Yeah, I think so. I do think so. Yeah. I think it's tough though, Ben, because you could, look at Will Levis. Will Levis was the last top quarterback taken in the draft this year, right? Who else was the quarterbacks that were taken this year? It was Will Levis. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, I can't think of everybody right now. Caleb, CJ Stroud, Bryce
Young. Yep.
Those are the main ones, right? And Anthony Richardson, right? All quarterbacks have looked pretty great so far, like all 4, right? Mm-hmm. And I believe Tennessee took Will Levis in the 2nd round. I believe, don't get me wrong, Mac Jones also.
Pick, I believe so.
New England Patriots, right? I wasn't a big fan of Mac Jones, but just saying, he also was taken real late 1st round for the Patriots. So I think you're right for sure. Depending on where you land in the 1st round, but I also think it's the same situation of what type of quarterback are you looking for, right?
Yep.
And from what I've seen, these and also I guess adding on to that, what teams actually need quarterbacks. Right. You look at right now the situation where Chicago very well could have a 1st round pick, their 1st overall pick, right? And them giving up on Justin Fields seems kind of, okay, question mark, right? Exactly. I get it. You want to take Caleb Williams, that's fine. But we also got to think of teams that need quarterbacks, right? Mm-hmm. So yes, you might end up a little bit late in the 1st round, but the teams that are ahead of you, do they have their guy? Are they giving up on their guy? Mm-hmm. And by them taking another quarterback, is that truly what's going to resolve the issues or the holes that they currently have on their team?
Exactly. Right. Well, and what's kind of good though is that, in a way, for teams like us, Kyle, is that teams that are currently, so let's say the season ended today. I believe Chicago's got that pick. Well, do they want to go after another court? They already have Justin Fields. Do they want to give him another chance to build around him? And then you got Arizona, who's...
I was going to say they're battling Arizona, Ben. Like, that's the thing, is they're battling Arizona for the first overall pick that they both have their guy.
Yeah, Kyler Murray and, Justin Fields. So maybe those guys like a Drake May or a Caleb Williams drop down a little bit, But then again, that allure of a Caleb Williams or a Drake May could say, screw it. Let's get this guy in. Hey, Justin, thank you. We appreciate it. We're going to look for a trade,
Oh, man.
Good.
No, I was just going to say, I think we may, maybe we are in a good spot, that those quarterbacks could fall, because of who the teams are that are in that top 2 or 3 that are picking. So
right. And if those drafts from the past have taught us anything, it's that you have to have your system and the quarterback, they have to mesh somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, it can't just be, this guy, we're getting this pocket passer, and we have a run offense or an option RPO offense. Those things aren't going to work. And not every team is a San Francisco that with all their weapons is QB proof. Then you could have any of these random guys come in. A lot of us, especially when it comes to Kyle, your team and my team, who are very well focused on the run. We need a quarterback that has a little bit of mobility to help that run game going while also having an arm. But it has to it has to have a little bit more mobile, because we have a lot of weapons on the wide receivers in the running game that can get out in space. The place that we tend to struggle at is the O-line, where we might not put those studs on the O-line. And so that's what's really hurting. And then you come to you guys. A lot of this stuff right now, it's great to speculate now, but when we come to the draft, you made the point great. You could have this pick, but you don't know what these 3 other teams have. And God forbid they're in your division. Please, teams play keep away. Teams definitely are like, I'm going to get this guy so that they aren't able to, pick this guy up later on in the draft. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that could play in. And in our situation, and very well in your situation, and maybe even with you, Ben, we don't know. And we can pretty much say our coach is not going to be here next year.
I was just going to say that too, actually. It's funny you mentioned that, because that's exactly where I'm at, where, sure, we can all say that Desmond Ritter's not the guy. I'm staying on the hill, or I'm standing on the top of the hill right now saying that, no, we're not getting rid of Desmond Ridder until we get rid of Arthur Smith. I'm telling you right now, like, that's fine. I totally get it. I love all of our upper management. I love our defensive coordinator. I'm not sure, actually, as bad as it sounds. Drew Rigoni, I think, is our offensive coordinator, right? Pretty sure, something like that. Who I'm not completely sold on, but I'm not really targeting him right now because I don't think it's all him. But Terry Fontenette, he's great. Literally, like, the black sheep is Arthur Smith, and he couldn't pound it in Tennessee. Get rid of him here, man. Like, why are we wasting some potential on, some of these stars of, like, most valuable years? Like I get it. I'm not saying Ritter's the guy by any means. I know he's not, but, like, we're not talking about a singular issue here. We're talking about a compound issue. We're trying to create an identity for a team that it's not their identity based on what you've drafted other than Bijan Robinson. And we've had this turmoil of, washed up quarterbacks, coaches that don't know how to coach, and, like, a whole management flip in Atlanta, right? Like, we never got over that hump in the Super Bowl. Like, sure, we went to the playoffs and we made a good challenge for the year that the Eagles won the Super Bowl, where we went against them in the semis, whatever, right? But it just went downhill. Like, it didn't get any better. Like, it went to a point where, like, okay, hey guys, you know what? Listen, maybe the fans actually do have a point here. Maybe we actually do need to get rid of some, the management and stuff. Maybe we should actually pull the trigger and, actually start fresh, right? And it took way too long to come to that point.
Yeah. And thank you for letting Julio go to Philly. daggone it, and got a
No,
touchdown
man.
yesterday. I was like,
Ben
what the
can
hell?
speak to this,
Come
though.
on.
Ben can speak to Julio's great when he's not injured. Like, literally, if he is not injured and he doesn't have turf toe issues, Julio is fantastic.
Yeah,
by the way, former Falcons don't work out in Tampa, okay?
No.
Sorry?
Russell Gage.
Oh, yeah. He's terrible. He's terrible. I told everybody that, though. That's what I don't understand. I was like, "Oh, Russell Gage is coming here," and I'm like, "Your point? Like, what do you what do you want to say to that?"
Like, well, I'll get workman's comp, so let me just.
All right. Well, I know we can go back and forth all night, guys, but I guess just before we go, let's just give our predictions here. We can even throw the Saints one up here too. I'll go first too. I know the Falcons are playing the Vikings next week. Mm-hmm. I do think the Falcons are going to pull out a W. I'm going to go a little bit into further detail with this. I think Heinicke's also going to start.
Let's go.
I think they'll give me some BS excuse saying that, we're still not really sure about Desmond Ridder and his concussion protocol. We want to give him another week, blah, blah, blah. They'll feed us some story, whatever, right? I think it'll be a good game. I think it'll be a high-scoring game. I'm going to say 31 for the Falcons. And I will go 20 Vikings. 31-20.
Ooh, I like that. What you think, Ben?
I can see that with the if we're talking about the Falcons and Vikings. Yeah. I do like the Falcons this week. Only, like you said, Kirk Cousins is the common denominator. He's out.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know who's going to play quarterback. So, no Justin Jefferson. So Atlanta's good at home, and I think they're going to do enough to win this game. I'm going to go not 31 points, but I'll go like 24 to 14.
Okay, all right. You have a pretty much the same plus minus then.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got 27. I got 27-14. You guys, I just don't. Kirk Cousins was hiding a lot of issues in Minnesota. Yeah. Obviously, Justin Jefferson's gone. Madison, while he's been good from time to time over the years in fantasy, he's not good as the main back, and we know that defense wasn't really worked on. So,
truthfully, guys, I love Minnesota too. I love Minnesota.
No, I'm with you on that one.
All right. Well, Sean, what about the Panthers?
So we have the Colts this week. And honestly, in my opinion, the main thing that we're going to have to do is stop that two-headed monster in the backfield of Zach Moss, if he's still there, and Jonathan Taylor. I'm not sold on Gardner Minshew. I do think he can play well, but I do, especially after coming off of this last game where they lost against the Saints, I think we can steal this one. Honestly, I think we can keep this thing low scoring. We're going to need some turnovers and to get some to hold the ball for a good period of time. But we know about the kind of the running game of the Texans. We held them to just about 100. Nobody really broke out. It was running back by committee. So we're going to have to stop that running game and make some plays on defense. But I think we can pull it out, man. I think it could be a 21-20 ball game that we hit a late field goal or something like that. But I think we can get it done.
Nice. Yeah. I'll tend to agree. I do think that, it's tough because I like to battle with this. It's like, what are the Panthers doing, right? Are they going to try and tank, or are they going to try and take the W here? Because I think it's a very winnable game for the Panthers. If you look at it on paper with the injuries that the Colts have, especially with, the main man being out, right? Like, why do the Colts need to win? Honestly, at that point. Also, why do the Panthers need to win? I do think the Panthers do squeak it out with a W. I see Adam Thielen getting a couple touchdowns. I'll probably get 2. And I see it going something like, I wouldn't go more than maybe 17-12 Panthers.
Yeah.
Okay. The one thing about Carolina, I will say, defensively, they're pretty good. They're pretty solid. And they've been at home at least. So this is in Carolina. Now, this is a late afternoon game. So, and if I read it correctly, Carolina struggles in the late afternoon window.
Oh.
We struggle all the time. So,
and with Indy, Gardner Minshew is a wild card. He either does really well or he does really bad. But like Sean says, you got the two-headed monster, Zach Moss and Jonathan Taylor. But they also have this guy named Michael Pittman Jr., who I'm like, where's he at? Why aren't they kind of like the Mike Evans thing and the Drake London thing?
Yeah.
And then the ball more, you know. But this is a game where I think it's going to depend on the running game. You know, whose running game's better? Is it going to be the Colts or is it going to be Chuba Hubbard and the Carolina Panthers? Whoever's run game does well, I think, wins this game. I just think Indy's a little bit better right now in that run game.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Colts here. I'm going to go 20-17, but that's if Mr. Minshew does not throw any interceptions in this game. Turn the ball over.
Wow. Yeah.
Go with Colts in this one. It's going to be a close game, but I like the Colts. 20-17. It'll be close.
Well, it's good we ended with you, Ben, because now let's talk the Bucks.
Oh, okay. Sure, let's do it.
All right. Who are the Bucks playing this week?
The Houston Texans down in Houston.
Ooh. So, what are you thinking?
Well, I hate to say this, but the Texans losing might not have been a good idea for us. Now we're going to face a team who plays pretty darn well at home. I wanted Dameon Pierce to finally have that breakout game before us. I'm afraid he might have that game against us now.
Oh, no.
With the Texans, though, see, they're good. They're better than I expected. And DeMeco Ryans an early candidate for Coach of the Year. I mean, he's got that defense playing really well. Now, it did kind of surprise me that the Texans' offense didn't do as well as I thought. Stroud kind of struggled in that game. Probably one of his worst games of the year. Our defense, you know, at times is pretty good. We can stay in games. But it's our offense that has to step up. And our run game is still, while it was pretty good against Buffalo, probably the best that Rachaad White's done all year, it's just still not enough. Yeah. I hate to say it, and I may flip-flop during the week, but right now, I'm probably going to go Texans here, winning this game at home. 20-14. Our offense is not scoring enough points, and it's what a shame. I mean, you have two great receivers. They should be getting the ball a lot more. And right now, I got to go Texans just because they're in Houston. If it was in Tampa, I'd probably go Tampa. But right now, I'm going to say Houston.
All right. No, that's totally fair. Sean, what do you think?
Yeah, man, this is a bounce back game for both of y'all. I mean, you know, obviously y'all need to come back after almost beating a very good Buffalo team. But then the Texans, they got to save face. I mean, they gave the only winless team their first win of the season. Thank you kindly. We needed it. But yeah, to your point, waiting for Dameon Pierce to really go off because we know that defense is good. Stroud has had his games, but he's also had some games where he's kind of struggled. And playing at home, plans the 1:00 game, seeing you guys, in my opinion, is whoever is able to swallow that from last week and get it out of their system the quickest. Your running game just leaves so much for me to just leaves you wanting. You're just like, dang, man, if you guys could get a sustainable running game, that could then take that hero ball out of Baker. Like, I don't have to, it doesn't have to be on my shoulders. So, but I just don't know if that can fully happen against a very good Texans defense. But at the same time, which Texans is going to show up? So at home, I'm going to go with you, Ben, because it's at Houston. I think Houston wins 23-20 with a field goal at the end of the game.
Okay. I like it. I'm going with you guys, to be quite honest with you. I think Houston has surprised quite a few teams this year. Well, just many people in general, right? You know, their rebuild seems like it's actually starting to stick now, which is good. You know, them taking huge names like Anderson Jr. and CJ Stroud, who, in my opinion, was probably the better quarterback to take off of due to his potential and what he did in Ohio State. I think it was phenomenal. So, I'm going with the Texans. I also think that there's going to be some quarterback questions, I think, after this week, potentially, if they do lose to the Texans for Baker Mayfield, where they're like, well, maybe we should do something, or, look at seeing what we could do maybe towards the end of the season if they feel like this is going to be a deal breaker game, I think, in my opinion, for the Bucs. So if they do pull off the win, awesome, fantastic. But I'm going with the Houston Texans at I'm going to go, honestly, I'm going to go like 21-10.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm going to go 21-10.
Okay.
So
I like that.
Yep. So I guess that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Ben, I just want to say thank you so much for joining in. It's been a hot minute since we've had you on the Let's Talk Football NFC South Takeover. So it's always a pleasure having you fill in and giving us all of your knowledge, man. So
well, guys, thanks for having me. This is a lot of fun. Yeah, like I said, it's been a hot minute, and hopefully I can come back around again sometime.
Yeah, man. No, you're in the group, definitely. We'll shoot you some time for sure. And Sean, I just want to say, I know you dedicate a lot of time and a lot of effort into making these shows happen, and definitely taking away from your own personal time. So I just want to give you a shout out and just say, well, we all appreciate what you do and what you sacrifice to make this happen, man. So hats off to you, man.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right, guys.
It's always fun.
Beauty. Well, I think that's it. Let's call it a night and talk soon.
All right.